Hey everyone, flights are still effed. The great government shutdown of 2025 has actually just ended. I was going to say continues, but has just ended. And release the Epstein files. All right, welcome to This Week So Far. So if you caught Sunday's episode, we were talking about the FAA canceling lots of flights. Officially on Tuesday, they canceled lots of flights. So 1,200 flights were canceled basically all across the country. And the FAA continues to limit essentially capacity at 40 major airports amidst the shutdown. Now, we expect this to hopefully reverse course a bit. Transportation Secretary basically said if the shutdown made it to the weekend, the disruptions would grow worse. Cancellations could rise above 10%. But I'll tell you, nothing says stable economy like the TSA agent telling you your connecting flight has been replaced with an emotional support bus. And HR managers, you can brace for the new PTO request format. Stranded in Dallas, please send snacks. So why does this matter? Well, my friends, for employers and employees, travel plans, business or leisure, may be disrupted. Yeah, nobody's surprised. Meetings, supply chain logistics, events, I don't know, commute, it's all left. For businesses, probably means delayed shipments. You may have employees stranded. I don't know if people are really thinking about that. Cost overruns, other stuff. And then kind of like broad economy speak, this is basically a knock-on of the government shutdown, right? We can clearly see this caused this, impacting air traffic control, labor and safety oversight, and of course, consumer confidence, which is low. Another thing that I'd like to call out is that younger workforce segments, think Gen Z, millennials, those of us who travel for remote work or work from anywhere, some of us are lucky enough to do that, you might be disproportionately impacted by cancellations and changes of schedules. So just be ready for that. Oh boy. In our second story, the great government shutdown has finally come to an end, and Congress is temporarily pausing their game of government Jenga. We don't know which support network brick would get yoinked next and cause the crash that we're all clenching for. I personally feel like I have been shitting Twizzlers since I wait for Social Security's final death knell. Super. So the House basically has passed the vote, and now after a multi-week shutdown, which is the longest in U.S. history, we finally are going to reopen the government in some period of time over the next few days. We hope. The funding is basically going to restore disrupted programs, so like SNAP, food assistance, thank God, may finally come back on. Hundreds of thousands of workers are going to get paid, and it seems like there's a sort of back pay agreement, I think, back until September 26th, which was, I think, was around when the shutdown began. That's great. So that's reported by Reuters and the Washington Post. Why does it matter? Well, I think I've been saying why it matters a lot. Hopefully you understand. People not being paid, like federal employees not being paid, sucks. I don't know how much else I need to say about that. But firms contracting with the government may also face disruption. It's not just direct payments, it's also secondary and tertiary payments that are being impacted here. The sort of broad economic risk is just that this hits us, the consumers, the spenders. It hurts supply chains. It also hurts credit markets, especially if the Treasury is behind, which is not something I like to think about. And corporate confidence, which is a really big thing these days. You may have heard about weak jobs in the private sector and other things like that. Yeah, it's all caused by uncertainty. It's all caused by a lack of corporate confidence. We don't know if the naughty orange man is going to shoot us in the foot tomorrow. What does it mean for small business owners? Kind of the same as that broader economic risk, but business owners that might rely on Fed contracts, grants, procurement, etc., those are really under risk of delayed payments, project halts, etc. And then, I don't know, I've been on this kind of like younger generation spin kick. This is also kind of a big deal for younger workers because younger workers and suppliers are hit hardest by disruptions. Why? Well, they may have less financial margin, less stable. There's a million different reasons why, but millennials and younger workers and Gen Z, etc., they have less financial margin. So the shutdown's ripple effects are sharper, pokier, pointier for folks like us. I'm a millennial. I'm square in the middle of the millennial generation, child of 87. Oh, my sweet, haggard millennial peers. First it was 9/11, then we had the financial crisis of 08-09, then we had COVID. Now the fascists are trying to recreate the Trail of Tears for everyone but the billionaire class. We have been through the ringer, haven't we, huh? Well, buckle up. It's going to get spicier. In our next story, oh boy. New Donald Trump Epstein emails released by House Democrats. Shout out to Adelaida Grijalva, who's finally been sworn in by shithead Mike Johnson. She's going to be that last vote. That may have already happened as I record this. It's Thursday, November 13th. Could have happened last night. I'm trying to keep up. The news cycle these days are so quick. Oh, goodness. So the Epstein emails have been released. More Epstein emails have been released by House Democrats, reigniting the ick factor in political inbox management, or as I like to call it, the inbox of the damned. When asked, Copilot summarized the thread as high in risk, but low on fat, because the girls being trafficked are fucking starving. House Democrats released this trove of emails from convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and they say they raised new questions now about how much Trump knew about Epstein's abuse of underage girls. Yes, we know it's a cover-up. We know. No, it wasn't covered up. Trump's redacted when spending time with redacted. All right, so why does this matter? Well, any legal or reputational fallout for a sitting president carries some broad implications for governance, regulatory oversight, and even business confidence. An idiot president makes things suck for everybody. No surprise there. For those of you interested in workplace and culture effects, leadership behavior and governance scrutiny increasingly resonate in HR strategy and employer branding. Love this one, especially in how firms respond to misconduct, transparency, and power dynamics. So the link between top-level misbehavior and enterprise risk is a growing theme. Kind of interesting to call that a growing theme. It's been growing for decades. And again, let's take a look at our younger generational friends. Younger workers have a tendency, it's not 100%, but they emphasize ethics, transparency, and company values. And this seems to be a trend. The older you get, the more money you get, the less you seem to care about the ethics and transparency of the money that you're getting. I think that's enough about the Epstein files for now. Hopefully we'll see the full shebang sometime soon. Next on this week's list is Keir Starmer's oopsie moment. Oh my gosh. I'm calling this a penalty kick in political football. European football, my American friends. Here's what happened. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, hopefully I'm saying your name right, I'm not 100% sure. He admitted that he made an unfortunate error by signing off on the appointment of David Cogan as chair of the Independent Football Regulator, despite his recusal, which is causing complaints of breach of process. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's definitely given that click the wrong profile on LinkedIn. And the admission coincides with rumors of internal plots to oust him. Oh, marking turbulence in Labour Party leadership. Very interesting. From like a global business context, why does this matter? Well, UK politics matter very much so to multinational firms, in particular folks that have operations in the UK, right? Regulatory instability, leadership uncertainty, governance issues, they can all ripple into investment and operational decisions. The other thing about this that has sort of a human resource-y spin to it is that even in the UK context, issues of governance, transparency, internal power struggles sort of mirror what organizations face internally. It's kind of interesting. So harkens back to a comment I made before about leadership being naughty and that impacting a company's reputation. The optics of a leader admitting an error in governance can impact national reputation and investor confidence for those of you business savvy folks out there. Again, quick sort of younger generational vibe. Younger professionals in the UK often cite strong expectations around ethical leadership and transparency in both government and business. Not one, not the other, both. The story basically signals the continuing blurring of political and corporate governance narratives. Yeah, basically like if you're big man on top of the pile, you really gotta be careful. And big mistakes have really big ripple effects, which sucks for a lot of us. Let's keep cruising. Our next story, unfortunately back to Trumpy boy. Trump has reportedly asked Israel's president to pardon Netanyahu. All the while, India is investigating a deadly car explosion near the Red Fort. So global politics is very spicy this week. It kind of feels like the worst group project in history. Everyone's fighting. No one brought snacks. And the teacher's actively inciting violence. Oh my gosh. Trump seeking pardon for a corrupt official? Color me surprised. And then color me hashtag FF0000, which is red, pure red, the color of rage. And as I was saying, in India, there was a car explosion near the Red Fort in Delhi, and it killed 12 people. It's not good. It's being investigated as a terrorist incident by Indian authorities. This is reported by The Guardian. Why does this matter? Well, talking a lot about geopolitics and business today, but it's a big deal. These two developments basically bring the diplomatic risk up to the forefront and the security risk. So the diplomatic risk is that Israel-U.S. relations. The security risk is like the India terrorism. And all this stuff matters for global supply chains. It matters for multinational businesses and just general risk management, right? If shit gets riskier, managing the risk gets harder. For organizations with a global footprint, the pardon request kind of raises questions about the rule of law. That's a silly way to phrase it. There are so many questions about the rule of law today with Trump in power. Anyway, so it raises questions about that executive influence. Yeah, there's a lot of issues with executive influence. Governance in Israel, which matters for companies who have Israeli ties. The terrorist incident in India has direct implications for companies that have headquarters in India, folks that are traveling back and forth. Insurance is also impacted by this. That's not one that I would typically think of. But again, this underscores the broad theme of geopolitical turbulence. There's a lot of nonsense going on in the world today. There's a lot of people in trouble. There's a lot of fascism everywhere, which I hate. And it's up to us to fight it. Make the Nazis afraid again. Okay, last but not least, we're going to do a couple of rapid-fire headlines. We'll call this the bonus bits, folks. Economists still cautiously optimistic about the economy, which is basically economists speak for, we have absolutely no idea, but we sure like our jobs. Airlines, United now offers the Shutdown class. No flight, no refund, but you get to keep the boarding pass as a collectible NFT. And then last but not least, a couple of fun HR trends for you. Employee engagement reportedly up 2%, which is the same boost you get when somebody spells your name right at Starbucks. That's all for this week so far. Thanks for watching.